So we've got that closed. Now let's take a look at task number 2. And task number 2 is asking us to open up the comments.aspx page. And what we're going to achieve in task number 2 is we want to set up what we're looking at here is some client, or sorry, server-side. I was just about to say client-side. Some server-side validation in checking a name field that exists on the page. We want to check the length of it so that it's no longer than 25 characters. And there's a comment field on there, and we want to check to make sure that it's not null. If the user puts in a name that is longer than 25, we want to truncate that. So we want to check that the candidate is able to actually work with strings and deal with the truncation. I'm not sure if that's a word or not, but we want to truncate the text is what we're looking at doing. And in the comment field, if it's empty, we want to display NA for not applicable. So once again, what we're looking at doing here is going back to task number 2, comments.aspx, and we'll right-click and check this out for edit. Wait for our source control dialog box to pop up. We'll check out all of the content files. Once again, the ASPX as well as the 2 code behind files, the .cs and our designer.cs files are available for us to work with. Now, what we're looking at doing is we'll pop open comments.aspx and take a look at what actually is contained on that page. So the task is saying that the page contains a comment submission form, and we're going to do server-side validations. So obviously, if we're going to do that and it's working on the server side and we need some way to submit the form, as we take a look at the design view for the page itself, we'll notice that there is actually a submit button here. So we'll wait for our design view to pop up, and we're loading the master page, and we'll load the content page here in a second. So here's the controls that we're looking for. We have a name text box, and we have a comment box here as well, and then we have our send comment button down here. So this will be the submission. Obviously, we want it to perform server-side validation on this, so let's go ahead and double-click the send comment button. This will add the event handler in the code behind for us, and we're ready to actually start writing some code in here. So the key thing again too is that when the user has finished entering this, they have the ability to kind of double check and verify their own work. So let's write the logic in here. So we're saying that if name dot text dot length, because that's what we're going to check, we want to verify that it is not greater than 25, or if it is greater than 25, we will achieve the necessary functionality to fix that. If that is the case, then we say name.text equals name.text, and obviously we want to truncate this, so we're going to deal with a substring function, started at 0, go 25 characters, so that what we display is no longer than 25 characters. And I have an extra parenthesis in there we'll get rid of. So we've checked that, and then the other issue that we wanted to check as well was we wanted to see if string is null or empty. So once again, notice that full IntelliSense, the complete Visual Studio environment here should make the candidate feel a little more comfortable, a little more at home as they're working through the process of doing this test, rather than trying to remember this stuff off the top of their head, in a multiple choice type of an exam. So we're checking the comment.text field. We want to check the text field of that comment text box to see if it is actually is null or empty. So we're using the string.isNull or empty check on here, and we'll come in here and say if that's the case. So if there is nothing in that text box, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the text equal to, and the task asked us to put NA for not applicable in there. And we say, cool, that's exactly what it is that we need to do. We can double check our code. This is what I'm looking for. Yeah, it is. Right. Now, here's another big advantage that the candidate has in that they don't have to wait for the end of the exam to find out did I get this right? Did I get it wrong? Whatever the case may be, we have the ability to actually run the web application. Again, IIS is installed on the machine. Of course, with Visual Studio 2010, we have the built-in web server as well that allows us to preview our web application in the development environment and make sure it works. But it's a big advantage to the candidate because they don't have to move on to the next phase or the next task and not know whether they've completed the first task successfully or not. Obviously, the candidate won't have any idea what the weighting is on the specific tasks within the exam itself, but at least this way here they have a quick way of double checking to make sure that things are working according to what the task specifically asked them to achieve. So let's go ahead and type in some text. We'll say it will extend beyond 25 characters. I'm not going to put a comment in the comment box, and let's see how well our server validation function works correctly. So we send a comment. You'll notice that we get a thank you up here, which was actually not code that we wrote, but was a part of the code behind already. You'll notice that we have actually truncated all of the text that I wrote in here to 25 characters. And because the comment box was empty or null, we did display the NA that was available in here. So now the candidate is a little more comfortable in realizing that I've achieved what that task has asked me. Now I can move on to my next task without having to worry about, did I pass that one? Did I not pass that one? How well did I do? Right? So we've completed that task. We'll go ahead and close that one out and move on to the third task. And again, this is another one that gives us the ability to look at it from the perspective of the candidate being able to double check their work to make sure that it's achieving the goal that we're looking for. So task number 3 says we need to open the photos.aspx page, and we want to put some JavaScript on this page that's going to add a div element with the content loading. So this is what we want to see, and it has to display this within an existing div with the ID of status. So let's do a checkout for edit and pop open this code, and we'll see what's available in this page, and then we can go ahead and type some code in there. And again, what this will demonstrate too is not only how the candidate has the ability to validate and verify their work before they move on, but it will also show how even the IntelliSense works from within the JavaScript environment itself. So photos.aspx is now checked out. Let's pop that page open. And as we take a look through the ASPX code itself in the source, we see that we have our div here with the ID of status. So that was where we wanted to put the loading. So that's where it was actually going to be displayed. So let's go ahead and type some code in here and see if we can actually get that to work. So we want to put a script tag in here. And we are going to be dealing with a script type of text JavaScript, and once again just demonstrating the full IntelliSense in making the developer feel more comfortable with what they're actually used to working with in the real world. And obviously oops, not JScript, we want JavaScript. So we have our opening script tag completed. And now what we're going to do is actually put in the necessary JavaScript to dynamically add that div element with the text that we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and add that information in here. So we're looking for the document.ready. And the IntelliSense is a little bit slower. Again, just as the performance of the virtual machine is not up to par for your regular development environment, coupled with some of the internet issues that we're running into. And again, remember too that this is not optimized for a delivery platform. Obviously, this is once again a beta and a proof of concept. So as we work through the process of getting feedback, working bugs and kinks and stuff out of the system, you'll actually see the performance on this pick up and increase a little bit better than what we actually are seeing here right now. So let's go ahead and add the necessary, we have to open our parentheses first. And then we are looking for status, and we want to deal with the append method. And what we're going to append in here, if we go back and we take a look at what step number 3 asked us, it said we wanted to add a div element with a content loading. So we're going to be dealing with putting in the necessary HTML. We'll make it a, oops, didn't want to close it out just yet, a heading 1 tag, and the text was loading, ... And we'll close out our HTML tags. I have a little trouble typing. Shift key didn't want to work for me, so we'll close out the div tag. And that will complete that portion. And make sure that we're happy with everything. Oh, there we go. My little green squiggly is gone, so everything seems to be fine. Now, once again, if the candidate's looking at it, kind of going, I'm not quite sure. Did I get this correct? Did I not get it correct? Well, hey, let's find out. So let's start the debugging process again. Let's run the web application, and we can do a validation to make sure that we have achieved what it is that the task was specifically asking us for. So again, we were dealing with the photos.aspx page, so let's click on that tab. And we will see that tab open momentarily. And notice that we indeed do have loading ... that has been placed within that page. So the thing that's kind of interesting too that a candidate could do for validation is load this page ahead of time and verify and validate that loading actually wasn't there. And then again, once they've completed the task, come back in here, load the page, validate that it's actually put it where we were specifically looking for it. And again, of course, being from within Visual Studio, we can do, with Internet Explorer, we can do a view source code. They can make sure that it actually put it within the proper development if they want to.